Welcome, everyone. Really excited to have you here at Talent Connect, the 5th Talent Connect. We are back where it all started, here in San Francisco. My name is Dina Medeiros. I am a member of the Global Talent Brand Solutions team here at LinkedIn. You guys are in for a treat. This is going to be a fantastic session, so I'm so happy that you're here. Just to make sure you know where you are, turbocharge your talent brand, developing your EVP, employee value proposition, just to be clear. I'm really excited here. Today we've got Tim Johnson from Epic Games. He's the Director of Recruiting. And then after that, you will have Sarah Duzek from Facebook. She is the Global Recruiting Brand Manager. We are going to, sorry about that. Tim is going to speak first, and then we'll have Sarah. We're going to hold questions till the end, so know that there should be about 10 minutes for Q&A at the microphones that you see here. At the end of the session, please fill out the survey. It's on the app. And enjoy your session. Tim?
Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Tim Johnson. I'm the Director of Recruiting at Epic Games. I've been at Epic for a little over 5 years. I've been in the recruiting business for, we'll just call it a little bit more than 15. Today I'm here to talk to you about the employee value proposition and the journey that we've gone on to define the EVP at Epic Games and how we've used that to promote our employment brand. A couple of quick disclaimers. First off, I'm not a classically trained marketer. And second, Epic isn't a huge company with a ton of resources for this type of work. What I'm going to talk to you today about is a pretty tactical approach to how one person in a small company can really make an impact on evolving the employment brand through the EVP. So before we get started, a couple of quick questions for you. If you can give me a quick show of hands. Before today, how many people were familiar with who Epic Games was? All right, more than I thought. How about Riot Games? Rockstar? Okay. You may be a little bit more familiar with some of the products that these companies have made. So Gears of War? Anyone? League of Legends? All right. How about Grand Theft Auto? That one's got to be, okay, there we go. So just a little perspective on these games. Gears was one of the games that Epic is most well known for, and that one grossed a little bit over $1 billion in sales. League of Legends, developed by Riot Games, arguably one of the most successful games out in the market today with about 27 million daily active users. And Grand Theft Auto was sold about 33 million units in its first year, and at its launch was the largest entertainment launch in history. The reason I bring this stuff up is just to point out and illustrate that in our business, some of the more successful companies out there are really virtual unknowns to the public. But the products that we make really carried some of that brand recognition. And because of that, we have to take a little bit different approach on how we market our employment brands. We can't always rely purely on the company's brand recognition, but we can use the momentum of those product brands. But those two are often changing, which creates its own set of challenges. With that said, just tell you a little bit about Epic, where our journey started and where we're at today. So Epic Games, we're a game developer and technology provider. Most well known, like I said, Gears of War, Unreal Tournament, Infinity Blade, currently working on a game called Fortnite. We also license technology, a game engine middleware, which is one of the leading game engines in the business, the Unreal Engine. Just want to show you a little bit about how fast our industry evolves and how things have changed over the last 15 years or so. So if you go back to 1998, this is a quick slide of the original Unreal game that went through a number of iterations, with Unreal Tournament probably being one of the more well-known games and one that we're still pretty well known for. 2006, we released Gears of War. This is a shot from Gears 3. And in 2010, we released the Infinity Blade series for iOS. This is a screenshot from Infinity Blade 3. And today we're working on Fortnite, which is a free-to-play online game that's currently in development. So each of these games that we've done is really a different style of game, different platforms, And those things cause, a huge amount of change. And from a recruiting perspective, it also changes the types of people that we're looking for. When I joined Epic about 5 years ago, we had about 100 employees in 3 locations. We were primarily hiring engineers, artists, designers, producers. Everyone came from within our industry. Our company's brand recognition at that point was enough to really keep people interested and attract the people that we were looking for, because everybody knew who we were. We were hiring people who grew up wanting to make games, and some of those people wanting to make games at Epic. As we've shifted our business a little bit from the traditional console game developer relying on a publisher to distribute our games and work on all the marketing, things have changed quite a bit for us. As a result, in the last couple of years, the kinds of people we're looking to hire have changed. The amount of people we're looking to hire has increased greatly, and the locations in which they're located have changed. Today, we've got about 450 employees in 8 locations in 6 countries. This change is really what kind of was one of the catalysts to really looking at our EVP. We realized, starting to get into a more competitive environment where we had little brand recognition, we really had to focus on creating an employment brand and that EVP, which is when we knew that we had to start telling and preparing to tell the story about why people come to work here, and more importantly, why they stay. So that's kind of where we started. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not a classically trained marketer, and because of that, I made a couple of mistakes along the way. When I first started thinking about how to get more people interested in working with us, I went straight to branding. Hadn't even considered the EVP. Put a proposal together, covered all the places where I thought we should advertise, some web postings, some print stuff, some job postings, and all these kinds of things. And I took that to a meeting with a small group of our executives. My approach was that if I paid enough people to put our logos on things, people would know who we were and want to continue to come work for us. So I took my proposal, basically consisting of this slide, into a small group of execs. And can anyone guess what the response I got was? Let's just say it wasn't good. I was completely blown up in about 10 minutes. One of the comments I remember hearing, and it just really resonated with me, was, if you aren't smart enough to know who we are, then you aren't smart enough to work here. So I left that meeting after about 10 minutes with my tail between my legs, thinking, you guys don't know what you're talking about. How arrogant are you? But after really thinking about it, it started to resonate. That if you don't know who we are, you wouldn't know the value of being part of it just by seeing our logo on an ad. The approach I had initially suggested just wasn't going to work. And spending a bunch of money to put our company logo on websites without any substance behind it was really just a waste of money. Was trying to just advertise without creating that value. So I started to think through why people worked at Epic, or why people stayed at Epic. Needed to understand the essence of the value proposition. We've got a pretty low turnover rate with about 3%, less than 3% annual turnover, and over 30% of our people have been with us for more than 5 years. It may not sound huge, but in our industry, 2.5 years is about the average stay that somebody has at a company. So my thought was, let's start talking to people who are here. Why are they here? Why did they come? Why are they staying? And this was, really looking back at that experience I had in that first meeting. I didn't want to make a big deal of this, so I kind of took things under the radar a little bit and just started to work on some plans behind the scenes. So as I thought about our employee value proposition, I really wanted to focus on a simple, specific definition. What I chose to define this was why people want to work at Epic Games. If you ask 10 people, you may get 10 different definitions. This was just kind of what we used to base the work off of. So now that I knew what I was looking for, I set out on a mission to find out why people work for Epic. Started really creating a survey, came up with about 20 questions, and I sat down and went through those questions with people face to face, asked everyone the same exact questions. And I actually ended up knowing more than I gave myself credit for. But I wanted to make sure that I wasn't creating this EVP without listening to what our employees were saying. To me, it's really important that an EVP comes from within. I think that when an EVP comes from the top down, it really borders on potentially becoming a mission statement. And a mission statement and an EVP can be very different things. So in drafting that survey, what I was after were 3 to 4 essential themes about why people worked at Epic. And the questions I asked really revolved around the management style, the company vision, what it was like to live in Raleigh. We relocate about 90% of our employees. Most of them come from the West Coast, so that's really a big piece of how we can sell an opportunity. And the work-life balance, among a few other things. Once we drafted the survey, really set to figure out who were going to be the best people to interview. As I mentioned earlier, it was important that this message come from within, so I made sure to look at a wide cross-section of people. We talked to new hires, people who had been there for a long time. We talked to high performers, middle-of-the-road performers, talked to people who had left, talked to people who turned down offers, junior people, made sure that we covered all of our disciplines, those kinds of things. For me, it was really important to meet with people in person and really kind of dig into what it was that they thought and make sure that I had the context there. Some other companies are larger, that may not work. You can use email surveys and those kinds of things as well. But now that I had all this information, it was really time to start doing something with it. And so we really had to kind of go together or start working on creating some themes for to figure out what this employee value proposition was. So what we found out was typically we hire smart, talented, passionate people and we let them do their jobs. We don't micromanage folks, and we kind of set them on their way. Quality is important in everything that we do, and our coworkers are always pushing people to do more. Raleigh is a great place to live. A lot of our big city dwellers really found that it was a nice place and really were happy there. And people felt that Epic was an industry leader and really enjoyed being part of creating kind of what's next. So now that we had this tangible message, I knew I wasn't asking to just spend ad dollars. Now I'm asking to tell the story. Tell the story about why people come here and why people stay here and why you should come here. We used a number of mediums to get the word out. Video was a big one, but we also updated our careers site, our LinkedIn careers page, Glassdoor, et cetera, all representing the newly understood EVP themes. When I started to talk about a budget for this, it was actually much easier now to get the buy-in and the approvals that I was after, and actually ended up getting a much larger spend approved than I had initially anticipated. Now that there was actually some substance behind the brand, it was just so much easier to get that approval from our executives. I'm going to show you a short clip. It's about a minute and a half of kind of what one of the videos that we created looked like. So here you go.
Epic was one of my top places I would ever want to work. I'd always wanted to do this, but I never expected it to happen.
I like being creative. I'm not a programmer because I like bit pushing and programming. I'm a programmer because I'm an artist who can't draw. I love games. I want to make the best games in the industry with the best team in the industry.
When I first moved to North Carolina, I found Raleigh surprising. It's just a really diverse place.
I'm originally from Seoul. I was very surprised how much this area has to offer.
It's a great place to just relax and hang out with friends.
I think it's a very inspiring place to live if you want to create digital art.
I enjoy making video games most because I want to satisfy the player.
Everything excites me about making games. It's kind of the childhood fantasy.
Video game industry is for the people who has a big passion about they really want to make something amazing.
It's always exciting. It's always fun.
Epic, that quality company, that thing that you aspire to do and go do. It really is possible to make a difference. That's why we get in, and that's why we stay, in the hopes that you can have a new generation of people who are inspired by the thing you did and think that you are magic.
So the end result wasn't just a video and some updates to some websites. By coming to our leadership team with real-world feedback about what people thought the highs and lows of working at Epic were, we were able to make some additional changes throughout the organization. And because the recruiting team was really a part of creating this, we were able to be a valuable partner and part of the discussion with that leadership team about how we're evolving our culture. And we evolved that culture based on what's important to our employees and based on what our employees have told us is important to them, not what we think is important for them. There's a number of changes that we've implemented since this exercise. We've done things like removing core hours to a truly flexible work schedule. We've removed vacation accruals and have unlimited vacation. We're holding biannual leadership summits. One of the things that people said was they didn't feel like they knew enough about the future. So we're holding these summits where we pull leaders together from all of our locations throughout the world, talk to them about company strategy, product strategy, financials, those kinds of things, and really encourage those leaders to go back to their teams and share this information. But one of the more important things that we learned was that a surprising number of folks on our teams felt like our company's reputation needed some improvement. At the time of this exercise, people thought that we could be seen as a little bit arrogant. And this was concerning for a couple of reasons. One, we don't want to be seen that way, but also with this next transition, we're moving away from working with publishers. We're starting to reach directly out to our customers. And if we've got an arrogant attitude and start reaching to customers that way, it's all going to be bad. So one of the efforts that we started was the advent of what we're calling Epic 4.0. And it's really a new evolution in our company where we're starting to deal directly with our customers, really making their needs the primary thing that we're focusing on versus just focusing on making a great game that sells well. We've also really thought a lot about the customer has to come first, but if our employees really come first, they're going to put the customer first. And so, we've started to incorporate this language into all of our PR beats, into a number of different events. But there was recently an article in Gama Sutra, which is an industry news site, and the title of that article was "The Humbling of Epic: A Giant Turns Around." In that article, our VP of Product Development was quoted as saying, philosophically, we believe that if we're generous and we provide value to people, that value will come back. Epic's always been a company that cares about our employees. And you're probably wondering, how does this apply to the employee value proposition and employment brand? But the fact that we were able to go and go through this exercise, talk to people, find out what they like and don't like, it really allowed us to focus on making Epic a better place to work. Today, that EVP is actually influencing what our corporate objectives and mission are shaping up to be. And all this was because we made the decision to talk to people, find out what they really thought about their job, their careers, and their company. So with that, I will turn this back over to Sarah. Thank you.
Wow. Hi. I'm Sarah Duzick. I manage the global recruiting brand for Facebook, and I'm going to walk you through my journey over the last year. Wow. But first, can I see a share of hands? Who here manages their talent brand program? Great. This is my third year at Talent Connect, and I've never seen so many hands. So this is a growing industry for us. So I'm so excited to see that. Okay, share of hands. Who's on Facebook? I like that number better, but I have a couple of t-shirts. So can anyone tell me how many people are using Facebook? How many users do we have? 1 billion is closest so far. All right, so 1 billion is closest. Come up and claim your t-shirt at the end. 1.3 billion people are using Facebook today. So, second question, does anybody know what Facebook's mission is? Got it. So t-shirt for you over here. So our mission is to make the world more open and connected. So really exciting. That's really at the core of everything that we work on each day. So quick intro. My name is Sarah Duzick. I manage our global recruiting brand. I'm going to give you a quick introduction about myself. So I've been in marketing for about 15 years. Feel a little bit like a dinosaur today, but I've been in the employment brand space for about 8 years. And I started my journey in employment brand at Qualcomm. So I worked there for about 7 years. The company was about 8,500 people when I joined it, and when I left last year, we were almost up to about 30,000, so huge scale. I joined Facebook last October, and it's really, I mean, it's interesting because I had orientation Monday and Tuesday morning, and then hopped on a flight and came to Talent Connect the next day. So I'm coming full circle here, you guys. So I joined Facebook to, launch a really intentional employment brand program with our team. So I'm going to tell you about my journey over the last year. Oh, I probably should skip ahead to some slides here. So this photo was taken in our Dublin office over the summer, and I thought it was really fitting. This is a space hack that our infrastructure engineering team did, and they painted this on the wall in their area. But this is really fitting to, because the employment value proposition is really at the infrastructure of our employment brand. And it helps, it guides how we position our company. And this is really core to the work we do as recruiters and as marketers. So a lot of you are wondering, I saw that raise of hands. So everyone pretty much in this room is on Facebook. So you're probably thinking, a well-established brand, why do you need to work on your employment brand efforts? So just like you guys, we compete with so many other companies for the same talent. So we're looking to hire some of the, I think they're called purple squirrels is what we call them as recruiters. And branding, we have different names for it, but, so for example, we're hiring software engineers, one of the toughest, core hiring areas that we have. It's really hard. So, we're looking to hire software engineers in our 4 markets, which are engineering markets. So Menlo Park, Seattle, New York, London. Tough markets, really competitive space. So we have to work hard for every single one of our hires. But not only do we have to work hard for our hires, we need to, at the top of the funnel, we need to get people to consider Facebook, and we need to reach these people, have them know about what we're doing. So, excuse me. A little shaky, a little nervous. So having a solid positioning platform is really, core to being able to attract people. Some of the really key factors in building Facebook's EVP, growing number of experienced people that we want to hire. Perceptions and realities about Facebook, they're really aligned. We wanted consistency in the communications that we were putting out there and how we were talking to people. And we really needed core communication themes and messages. We hadn't developed those that were authentic to the people at Facebook and our company. So our employment brand today, this is Hacker Square. This is in our Menlo Park headquarters. So we're really known as this hacker culture. It's part of our DNA. And yeah, it is, it's a part of our company culture, but we need to evolve beyond this because we want to attract the best people in this field. So we're in a situation today where perceptions don't necessarily meet versus reality or meet the reality. So my candidate experience, when I'm thinking about joining Facebook, some of the things I thought about, will there be a community that's a really, supportive community helping me be successful in what I want to do? Is there going to be a place for me? Hacker culture, I really didn't know what hacker culture was. I didn't hack when I was at Qualcomm. I didn't hack in my previous careers. So, what did that mean? And it didn't really appeal to me, to tell you the truth. So thinking about Facebook's future, what was that and how bright was it? So, what I realized after joining Facebook is the company that people think we are really isn't the company we actually are. So the reality is we have a really thriving culture. It's an amazing community for me. The first week when I started at Facebook, my uncle passed away. super close to him. I came back into the office, and I had a bouquet of flowers. I had hugs from my new team that they barely knew me. I knew that this was a place that was really empathetic to who I was. And I knew that this was going to be a lifelong community of friends, too. So I knew that they were there for me to support my career growth. We're mission-driven. We're really motivated by the Facebook mission to connect the world. And really, we're just getting started. So, and yes, hackathons, they're all voluntary. We do them on a quarterly basis. You don't have to spend the night, and they're a lot of fun. I've gotten to meet a lot of really great people from around the company working on different things. And you know, they're just working to improve our products. All right. So, you know, developing a strong employment brand helps close this gap between perceptions and realities. So, a few of the goals driving our EVP: create awareness for what makes Facebook really special and unique. Drive more quality, experienced, and diverse candidates to consider our company. Increase engagement and pride among employees who are already there. And then, you know, create consistency in our messaging. So this is a huge team effort. You know, our people team, which is the HR team, they really drove this. I worked with Bryn Harrington, she's our growth manager on our people team. She's incredible. She owned the positioning. Recruiting stepped in. I was hired in October, so about 3 months into the project. So I was jumping into a really good situation. And then marketing. So we wanted to make sure that everything that we created really felt like Facebook. We wanted to, like, everything from content strategy to the communication design. So, and as we went through the review milestones, we pulled in our CMO, we pulled in head of recruiting, we pulled in head of people, we pulled in head of diversity, head of university recruiting, all along the way to make sure that we were, you know, aligned. So how did we do this? What was our path? So we conducted a massive amount of research. We did employee interviews, we hosted workshops, we interviewed employees at all places of Facebook across the company, at all different points in their career and in all different roles. So we asked them about their experience at Facebook, and we really looked for those common themes. So beyond the employee interviews and, you know, as part of this research and development phase, we did competitive analysis, we explored different perceptions and realities about Facebook, we conducted external research about university student perceptions and preferences. We audited our current marketing materials and current messages, and then we defined our target audiences. Once we synthesized all of this materials together, we developed draft positioning and communication themes and really, like, the key messages that we wanted to talk about. We went back to, and we tested these with employees, we socialized everything. So we hosted message testing workshops. We also did video interviews to really get a better understanding around sentiment for the communication themes that we were considering. You know, socializing is a huge part of the Facebook culture. We knew that our EVP wasn't going to be successful without this being really truly authentic to the people at Facebook. You know, they really own this in the end. It's not something that we're creating, you know, specifically like coming up with. This is them. So this process was really truly authentic to what we needed to validate our findings. So once we had a really strong foundation, we finalized our positioning, and then we designed our visual ID, which I'll jump into in just a minute. So in our research, we found 3 key insights. One, you know, people at Facebook are super mission-driven. This really differentiates us. 2, people at Facebook work really differently. So we want autonomy and we want community. So there's this like beautiful tension there. And then 3, our people are our brand. So, you know, connecting the world takes every one of us. This is our external tagline. This speaks to, you know, making, like, this, so we can't make the world more open and connected by ourselves. So, you know, if we think about it, each of us at Facebook is a contributor or a mission and our vision to connect us all. And it's also an invitation to be part of what we're doing, to connect the next 5 billion people. This is our positioning. This is how we want to be known. This is how we want to be differentiated. And as we evolve from that strong hacker identity, it's really important that, that we relate to our past and we also inspire the future. So that's our positioning for external. I'm going to give you a little bit of our special secret sauce here. So communication themes. These are really core to the factors that differentiate Facebook. So each message that we develop, we want it to encompass one of these themes. And if it does, we know our stories will come to life really authentically. So each of these has key messages that are behind it. So thinking about this, we hire people, the people. So this really speaks to the people we hire. So we hire people who believe in our mission, point blank. Our journey is to connect the world. We want people who believe in our mission. So we hire builders. We love to build things at Facebook. You'll thrive at Facebook if you like to create. How we work. So we follow our values. Our values guide us every single day in the decisions we make. The opportunities ahead. So this kind of speaks to both business, but also in personal growth. So thinking about this, we solve problems at global scales. Things that you can work on at Facebook, you really can't work on it anywhere else. 1.3 billion people is a lot of friggin' people to connect. So we're just getting started. I mentioned, we've connected 1.3 billion people, but we want to connect the next 5 billion. So in thinking about brand attributes, we can think of this as our brand personality. So each of you guys have your own brand personalities for your companies that are very unique and differentiate you. So the moment someone interacts with your brand, you want them to feel any of these. So we keep these in mind when we're creating communications, just as really more of a tone of voice, really ensuring that our personality shines through. We don't use these words externally. We consider these as guides, so making sure things are on brand and they feel right. So coming back to that visual idea I talked about. So we developed a creative platform for our employment brand. It's a system that really is, it ensures that we present ourselves consistently. So in thinking about this, what we wanted to develop, the things that we needed. So we needed something that was scalable to all of our hiring locations. So at the macro level, we needed this to feel global in nature. But at the micro level, we needed something that would be we could execute locally in different regions that we hire. So we needed something to appeal to different diverse audiences, something to differentiate us from competitors. We needed it to be applicable online, print, and through events. And we needed it to represent our company culture and personality and build on all the EVP work that we've already done. Last, we needed it to relate and connect to Facebook's corporate brand. So we couldn't have disconnects in any of these areas. So this is our design system that we created. It includes all the design elements, logo types, color palette, tagline artwork, color palette, infographics, photography, and how to apply this across the board. So putting this all together, we created a brand guidelines book. Part A covers just really the communication guidelines, and then Part B is more of the style guidelines for the visual ID. This is literally my Bible as a marketer. So I use this when I go out and I talk to people, or when I work with different agencies and when I talk to people internally. One thing that I wanted to point out is these communication guides. We created these for all of the different audiences we hire. So I'm showing a blank template here, but we created these for software engineers. So we broke that out into experienced and then also for new grad students. We did it for designers because that's a huge hiring area for us. We did it for marketing professionals because that's another area that we hire a lot of. So we included structured talking points in these guides. And it's really general guidance, but it helps us talk more consistently. It helps build trust with candidates when we're talking about the same things. And it also helps us partner internally better and get up to speed with different outreach efforts that we have. So moving beyond how we talk about Facebook in conversations, we're evolving our visual branding to really be more in alignment with those communication themes. So we're refreshing all of our marketing materials. We want this to be more deeply connected with our mission and with the people at Facebook, really achieving our mission. So going back to that unifying tagline, connecting the world takes every one of us. So our employees are at the core of everything we do and we achieve. They're our brand. So go time for us. So we finalized our positioning. We had a design system in place and signed off on. The next step was really to collect employee stories from our different offices around the world. We really wanted to represent our employees globally. We couldn't do this from our Menlo Park headquarters. So in June, we did a record-setting trip. In 5 weeks, we went to 8 countries. We went to 11 Facebook offices. We interviewed over 50 employees video. And then we did over 70 photo shoots with employees. We had a really small team, like a production team that we put together. We went to our really, more of the higher hiring areas around the world. So we started in Menlo Park, went to Seattle, New York, London, Dublin, Tokyo, Singapore, Hyderabad, Sao Paulo. Then we went to Austin, and then we went to Toronto, and I got a great night's sleep after that when I got home. So, this was key to collecting so much content about our employees, and we wouldn't have been able to go into production without this. So we produced 6 new recruiting videos. We rolled these out about 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to share with you our global video, or the anthem video. It's about 1.5 minutes. But we also created 5 other videos to focus on engineering at Facebook, careers in EMEA, careers in Asia Pacific, global marketing solutions at Facebook, and then we also did a video for intern new grad. So enjoy. Hopefully this works.
There's giving people the power to share. I actually consider that storytelling. So when you are sharing, you're literally just telling a story, and whether you're telling that story through a photo or some plain text or a video or through the music that you're listening to, it's filled with emotion, it's filled with a message.
By connecting the world, people realize that there are other people in the world who have different lives than them, and that maybe their lives could be better. And then amazing things happen.
You want to do something big, and you have this access to 1.2 billion people. What can you do is just limited by your imagination.
I think the mission that we have to make the world more open and connected is just incredibly important. The value we're creating in the world is enormous.
Facebook isn't just some website, but it's the next phase of communication.
I get up every day and know that the impact that I have at Facebook ends up impacting a really large portion of the world. You just can't get that at other jobs.
We also want to reach the rest of the people. We want to make sure that people who currently don't have access to internet, that they get that access, that they, whether they use Facebook or not, but that they get the information that they need to make their lives better.
It is a strengths-focused company, so whatever you're good at, you should shine in that field, and it allows you and pushes you to be yourself.
The sense of community here is amazing, and it's a sense of community outside of ourselves.
The people here are special, smart, sharp, humble, mission-driven.
I can, with a hand on my heart, say I work with the smartest people in the world.
So we started rolling out our new marketing materials and brand items in September. So we really needed to hit that campus recruiting deadline for the fall. So I think we got back from all of our travel the 2nd week of August and rolled this out to the UR team by the 1st week of September. So here's an example of some of our new collateral materials on the right. And you can see there's a really big noticeable shift from the materials we used last year on the left. We're focusing more on the employees and using their voice to talk about our brand and our company. So I don't want to get too far into the brand work we've done in the execution, because this is really about the foundation work that we've done and the process that we developed to get to this point. We have so many things ahead. We're just getting started with this. So we'll be updating our careers website with all the new imagery that we shot and the messages that we've developed. We'll be rolling this out over third-party sites like LinkedIn. We're going to be equipping, or we're equipping our recruiters with the brand resources they need. And the list goes on. There's so many things that we have ahead. So really, in true Facebook style, we're just getting started. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim and Sarah. So we've got microphones on both sides of the room here if you have any questions for Tim and Sarah.
Hello. Yeah, I was interested in the differences between the two markets that each of you recruit into, with kind of a big, bright, famous New York, London versus kind of a diamond in the rough. What are some of the keys to recruiting for those two different kind of markets?
Sure, I'll start. I think that one of the things is really just finding out what is it about Raleigh, for instance, that's great. And that was where one of the pieces, as we started this whole process, it was, people say no because of our location. And what we thought about was the people who come to work at Epic at our headquarters in Raleigh don't leave because it's Raleigh. So let's start to really investigate that and give the recruiting teams and everybody the tools that they needed to be able to tell that story.
And so for Facebook, we have, I think there's about 50 offices now around the world. And I think that for us, we recruit into all of these offices. I mean, they're not all easy. There are not all large teams. Our office in New York has a couple hundred people versus a couple thousand people that are in our Menlo Park office. So it really, I think that there's a place for everyone, depending on what kind of a company you want or a different office environment that you want. And there's also room for internal opportunities as well. If our employees don't find that one office is suited for them, sometimes they look at opportunities in other offices. So I think.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I work for a smaller company as well, Tim, but I am curious about the kinds of tools that you both used in terms of gathering the information and the data, because I work for a very virtual company. 90% of our employees work out of their home-based offices and travel. And gathering, just doing the surveys over email, for instance, would not be very effective. But I was curious as to the different kinds of tools you used to get that data, whether it was virtual or not. For instance, did you use specific surveys from a company, or did you produce the surveys yourselves?
When we did it, we were really focusing on kind of our headquarters location as kind of the place to start from, and so everyone was there. The tools that we used were really just asking the questions and sitting down and making sure that we had clarification. So I would imagine that if we started, we're actually talking about continuing this on as we've got new locations, and I think that we don't have very many virtual people, so we're going to go to those locations and sit down and actually talk to those people. If I did have virtual people, it would probably be some sort of video conference or something along those lines is the choice that I would probably make.
So I think for us, capturing data, we didn't have a really structured way of doing it. We didn't do, type A survey. It was really anecdotal a lot of the time. It was conversations we were having with our employees, about, what makes Facebook really special. We did do a little bit of outside research for the university, student perceptions and preferences. That was a little bit different. So we wanted to understand what the market was for these students.
Thank you, guys. Why don't we come on around this? Oh, okay.
I'm Jenny Track with VMware. I was actually really curious. It sounds like for Facebook that the employment brand is very early on, but I was curious if for either company, how do you measure the ROI of the employment brand and its impact and tie it back to recruiting, that piece of it, and then justify kind of like the bottom line to continue evolving the employment brand?
So for us, I mean, it's going to be, we're still trying to set up what those factors are going to be, to tell you the truth, because we're still so new into our new brand launch. But, you know, we're putting check places in for research, you know, perceptions and preferences now versus what they'll be in a year from now. You know, is there brand recognition beyond, you know, knowing who we are? I think that we want people to know who we are from, like, what our mission is, what our people, like, what our employee stories are. Why would a person be attracted to Facebook? Why would they consider that company first? So, we're still early on.
Yeah, I think for us, it's been a tough thing to measure because a lot of it is gut. We made a fairly small financial investment in the whole process. And what we've seen are results that we've been able to use in multiple different places. So it was absolutely worth the investment that we made. And as we continue on, a lot of it is about, you know, does the recruiting team have the tools that they need when they're out there talking to people, and do more people know about who we are than they used to, and those kinds of things. So just really kind of trying to look at it bit by bit and trying to establish how we're going to make a longer term impact on that.
If I could reach. So as both of you went out in the field and gathered those anecdotes and did those surveys, did you find any inconsistencies in what you were getting back from them, whether it was maybe a manager versus an individual contributor, or maybe a different location versus another? I come from a company that's actually done similar things to what you're doing, but we've grown through acquisition, so all the different sites kind of come with their own culture when we acquire them, and that messaging kind of tends to be a little bit different, right? So I'm curious if you, first of all, saw that, and second of all, if you did, how you reconciled that to your overall talent brand.
Sure. We're actually in the process of starting to look at other locations. And so this is something that we're thinking a lot about right now. We've built a couple of new studios organically and grown a little bit through acquisition. And so part of that post-acquisition process is, what is your talent brand? And how do we get that closer to ours, and really kind of measure that. In some of the other locations, it's you know, giving them enough time to become their own thing, and then starting to talk to them about what is it that's special about that location. I think there's going to be some common factors that we have through culture, and then there's going to be some separate things. And I think it's really important to pay attention to what's different, so that when we're out there talking to candidates, that we're telling them about things that, you know, are accurate for that location. What are the similarities? What are the differences?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a really good question. So we embrace it. I think it's, you know, that's what their company, that's what the culture is. We want people to be really authentic about, you know, what their experience at Facebook has been, and working there. So, you know, embrace it.
Did anybody ask or give you any, like, negative feedback? And if so, were you able, like, consistent negative feedback, were you able to spin it in a way that was, like, for example, we have to kind of spin our message where if you're not good at dealing with an ambiguous environment, our company's probably not for you. So we thrive on ambiguity. So we've spun it. But I don't even know if that's the right way to do it, right? So I'm just wondering how kind of, if you got negative feedback and how you dealt with it, I guess.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that that I talked about was, you know, people had said, hey, as a company, we can be perceived as being arrogant. We had to address that head on. There's other situations where, you know, people say, you know, it's one of the things I hear is people are concerned that, you know, we have a lot of crunch time or those kinds of things. And we really talked to people, and we found out, why do you do that? Why do these teams spend 80 hours a week for 3 months, you know, on a project? And it's because they're dedicated to quality. And so what we've done as a recruiting team is we tell people, you know, if you're not willing to put in the time that it takes to make the best product possible, you're not going to be a fit for that team. And so there's a little bit of spin there, but it's actually reality. You know, and to also tell them that you're not going to work those hours because some guy, you know, out of Office Space came down and said, you know, you need to be here on Saturday. But it's what the team has decided together.
We found out, like, the findings that we had, you know, nothing was like out of, you know, it wasn't strange. It's things that we kind of already knew. I don't think that anything, we would have to spin it a different way. We really wanted to be authentic to, you know, who our company was. And we're highlighting the things that were really common themes that we found among all of our employees. So that's what we're choosing to talk about and how we want to position ourselves.
I'll just share one quick thing too, is your insides better match your outsides. So, you know, what Sarah said about being authentic as well as just owning it. With a lot of the organizations that we work with, have a lot of these conversations. And honestly, I mean, all of you can attest to if you worked at a new organization and had one story given to you and then you walk in and it's a very different story, that's not good for anyone. So I think your authentic voice is your talent brand, and spinning it, I know what you're saying is highlighting it, right? So just highlight the pieces, but continue to be authentic. I think that's a really important message when it comes to your talent brand. So.
And Lori, Trip Advisor. I have a two-part question. What challenge were you solving for with the rebrand of your employment brand? And second to that is, in a tech-driven, like you said, like hacker company, what did you have to go through to get buy-in for this, what's otherwise known as the soft stuff, right?
Yeah.
And largely always wanting to focus on engineering.
Yeah, so some of the challenges that we know are ahead, so we need to hire more experienced professionals than we've ever had to hire in the past. So we also wanted to reach candidates and, you know, have more experienced candidates and diverse candidates to consider Facebook. So these are some of the challenges that we were looking to solve for. We also didn't have a really intentional employment value proposition or, you know, consistency on how we were talking about our company and shaping our story. So those are, like, that's what was driving it. What was your second question? Buy-in. Yeah. So this was, we worked with a cross-functional team. So we worked with people, we worked with marketing, and then recruiting, of course, myself. So we checked in with the milestone, like the review milestones were like our CMO, head of people, head of recruiting, head of diversity, head of engineering, and head of university recruiting. So we really wanted to make sure that we were aligned with, you know, how everyone else was thinking about the company as well.
I think we're going to go right.
More for the Facebook story, but I'm just curious, when you're talking about getting the buy-in for using employee stories as your brand and your face to the world, how are you managing as those people transition into new positions or, God forbid, transition out of the company under a not positive, you know, leaving? So do you guys have that in a plan that you're executing, or is that
We're
just
working on it, yeah. One is just, you know, getting to this place where we actually have really great, solid content that's really meaningful and impactful. And, you know, as we roll this out, we're going to continue to build out content for this. It's not just going to be like, okay, bam, now we're going to launch and we won't update content. We'll be updating as we go. So, you know, if people leave, it's not going to be super great if, you know, their face is on a, you know, a job card or, you know, in a video to represent Facebook. But these are things that we'll have to, you know, switch out over time.
So my question continues to focus on buy-in. Specifically, though, I was curious about executive level buy-in. So when starting to focus on employment brand, first off, how is it taking from the executive level in your organizations? And also, how did you get executives to want to allocate resources to something like employment brand?
You know, I ran into a lot of trouble early on. And, you know, it was really coming back with, it was actually doing the work and then coming back with, here's what I found and look what we can do with this. And the conversations once we had built some value behind what it was we were trying to do and had talked to people, the conversations became, you need to spend twice as much money on video because it won't be good enough if you spend that much. You know, things like that. And then, you know, we've got a culture where, you know, scrappiness wins. And so a lot of it was once there was approval, I chose to go down the route of, I'm going to get this almost done before I show anyone, so that it doesn't have to change 14 times. And I mean, I remember sitting at my desk when our CEO came by my office, and I said, hey, do you want to take a look at this? And it was a really rough cut of the video, and you know, he's a tech company CEO, and he just kind of got giddy, and he was like, this is effing awesome, you know, and so right then I knew, I'm like, okay, I won. And still today we talk about, you know, more video, and he's like, yes, do more, that was worth it. And so once we had something to show is when we really kind of had that piece nailed down.
So I think for us it was, you know, working on the EVP, we needed, you know, we needed, I think, approval, not approval, sign off, I want to say, and really being aligned. So like, we worked with our CMO, we worked with head of recruiting, we worked with head of diversity, head of people. It was really important to have them feel like they owned this too, you know, be part of the process, because they're going to own it at the end. You know, our employees are brand ambassadors. This is their brand, so.
We're going to go right and then left, and then I think we're going to be out of time.
And such a fast-changing global market, how often do you think that we should start looking at revamping, say, your talent brand or any company's talent brand in general?
So I don't know, like for campaigns, I don't know that you're going to have to revamp your EVP. I think you're going to have to make changes all the time to it. I think it's a living, breathing thing. You know, it's not something that you should create and then it acquires dust. So that's something that we constantly want to monitor and change to be really representative, like, of our employees and our company. What was the? I think that I was trying to say something else, but I can't remember now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the campaign piece itself should be consistent. I think that the change that you're going to see in the EVP is probably a slow, gradual one, and I think that you need to stay in touch with it as it changes. But I don't know that it's going to change annually or that so much so that you're going to have to make a whole new investment.
I remember what I was going to say now. So for campaigns, I think that refreshing a campaign is really essential. Doing that every 24 months is typical, 24 to 36 months if you would really push it.
Perfect, thanks. I'm especially interested in what you said about scalability. We have over 100 locations in 18 countries, so how do you keep that consistent, high-level employer value proposition in place, yet let the individual locations tailor it without losing the consistency?
Yeah, so speaking, I think to that macro global level and the micro, localization, execution level. So this is something that there's going to be key messages that I haven't developed that are really relevant to our Asia Pacific market and to our offices in those areas. Coming up, I showed you that template for creating what those messages are. This is still a work in progress. So coming up with what those are for those different localized regions is really going to be important.
So is that something you're establishing, or you're letting them? Here's the guardrails. Stay within it.
Yeah, so we're creating the global piece, and then we'll go. My idea would be to jump into each of these localized regions, but there's going to be so many things that I'm not going to be able to do on my own. So really having our recruiters, feel ownership of this too.
Great. All right, so thank you guys. This is the first session. I hope you're fired up. How many people, this is your first Talent Connect? Awesome. Well, my advice is this. Today's theme is connect. Talk to people you don't know. There are amazing people here. I'm really excited. There will be a survey pushed to you on the app. If you would please give us your feedback, we'd appreciate it. And can we give a nice thank you to Tim and Sarah.